Overthrowing Cricket's empire is just another cricket history book, but this time written from the other side. Get your copy today.
I wish I could sit here and tell you that that was predictable. But even if you look back at what happened against India last year, even if you went, well, maybe the groundsman's going to leave a little bit more grass on it because there was lots of talk about how much grass was on the surface. Even if you thought to yourself, well, there's a lot of good fast bowlers, and this is a pitch for fast bowling. I don't think you can really prepare yourself for the absolute schmozzle that was that day of Test cricket. There was a point where I'm a little bit jet lagged, and obviously I wasn't sure if I was awake or asleep. I wasn't sure if it was a happy dream or a nightmare. And at one point, I thought my TV was broken because Jake Witherald was like floating above the crease. What I know is, if you want to be one of these teams, I think the team to be at the moment is England. But that's about all I can tell you about what happened on day one. I can go through my notes and we can talk about things, and you can ask as many questions on third innings as you would want. But when it comes down to it, that was one of the stupidest or one of the most TikTok-y days of Test cricket I think we have ever seen. Let's progress with the show. If you are in Delhi at the moment, you can probably see my Wi-Fi might be kicking in a little bit over and over again. That's just because I'm in a hotel with hotel Wi-Fi, which is, as we all know, one of the worst things ever invented by humans. But if you are in Delhi tomorrow at the Ekamra Sports Literature Festival, if you want to say hi, that's the best time to see me. The rest of the time I'll probably be working, but I'll be there for most of the day tomorrow, certainly in the back half. In the morning, I'll be watching the test match in my hotel, and then I'll head down there afterwards. But yeah, if you are a Delhiite, you can do that. But let's just get to this day. I'm trying to think of what my main note would be. I wrote one whole piece that doesn't really make any sense now, and then disappeared, and then just sort of has moved on. I had another piece that I thought was really, really interesting. I don't even know where my phone is with all my notes on them at the moment. I had another piece that I thought was really, really interesting. And I've got all these micro sort of analysis points, which I think are definitely worth talking about. But it does feel very hard to talk about those sorts of things on a day like today when everything went so sideways so quickly. I think someone put this up in the I can't find. Oh yeah. So Doe says Stokes picked up a 5 for bowling absolute filth today. There is an element, right, when you watch the day today of what were the better wickets. So Zach Crawley's was one that obviously wasn't particularly good. You've then got 3 English players going out playing the short ball. You had Pope and Duckett just kind of playing around very straight balls at the start of their day. Witherald fell over. Marnus Labuschagne left a ball that went back onto his stumps. I think you would put Root and Smith in a situation where you say they got pretty good balls. Then you get the green head carry Starc situation. Where do you go with all that, right? I thought early on in the day that it was a little bit tricky, and once the ball got soft up, if England had kept enough wickets in hand, they could have got to 250, 260 on that surface. I might be wrong, but that's how I read it around lunchtime. It does remind me a little bit of the India test there, though, where it was actually harder to bat in the afternoon than it was in the morning, which doesn't really make any sense. But now that we have 2 test matches with first days where the wicket has had grass on it, that does feel like the case. Maybe it just quickens up in the afternoon. And so not only do you have a little bit of movement, but you didn't have masses of movement, right? The bowlers who are most likely to get jagging movement, like someone like Boland on that kind of wicket, didn't really get that at all, right? Maybe Jofra would be the other one that you would put in that. A lot of the wickets seemed to come from fairly straight balls, and it didn't look like there was a high degree of difficulty in watching the game natively. Now, we might get some Hawkeye data that tells us we're wrong, right? But when you looked at this, I don't think you were sitting there thinking to yourself, there was something on this wicket. In fact, I think it was Ankura who came up with a message here. What was the primary issue that the batters faced today? I think that's a really good question, because I don't think today is a moment where you can do like incredible analysis, because so many of the wickets fell to guys stepping over straight ones, big raucous shots, trying boundary riders when the meet, what is it? It's like 83 meters wide, and England's like, we'll probably be able to beat these boundary riders. No, you won't. You obviously won't. This is not Edgbaston, right? Like, you are eventually, even if you get a good connection on one, it may not go much more than 80 meters. And if they've got a tall guy down on the boundary. So, and you go to the end of Australia's innings as well, where they suddenly decided, after not even being able to score early on, that they were going to start doing things. There has to be an element of panic. I thought, let's just go back to the start. I'll try and do this chronologically as best I can. Let's take the Crawley one out of this a little bit. I thought in Crawley's case, trying to drive a ball that wasn't quite there, well, wasn't even close to being there. He shouldn't have driven it at Perth. But let's just take that away. That period afterwards, where you had Duckett and Pope and Root, there was, I thought they were shook. I thought there was an element of, oh, they weren't ready for a wicket to fall early on. They don't know how to play their aggressive cricket the way they want to. They are just panicking in a way that they don't need to. Let's just fast forward that to Australia's innings, right? Where they did have a bit of bad luck with the Usman Khawaja thing, right? Like that's genuine. That's a genuine thing of, like, generally England wouldn't have lost so many wickets quickly, so Usman Khawaja would have just opened. And then even if Weatherald had gone out, you would have expected there'd be enough time for Khawaja to come in. So there was an element of chaos that came from all that. But it didn't look like Marnus or Smith were comfortable at all with pace, with the angles, with the deliveries, with the fields, all these different things. But the thing that really I thought was most interesting was the runouts. It looked like Marnus and Smith were going to run each other. The Jake Weatherall one is just absolute poetry. Watching him stand up in the air is just absolutely brilliant. But yeah, it looked like they didn't know how to score. And there was that long period of time where they didn't score. And they didn't have any weapons. And I thought England bowled brilliantly. I thought they bowled a lot better than Australia did. I thought Starc was fantastic, but Boland was off. Dockett was fine. But England brought it to a whole new level. But what was interesting to me was, again, that the Australians didn't seem to have any pattern, right, of what to do in that kind of situation. There was a small period of time where I thought Smith and Labuschagne were going as far as across the stumps as possible to try and just steal runs to fine leg and back with square leg. But even when you watch that, there was one where Smith did that and he hit the ball straight to Ollie Pope and just ran anyway. Like, there's solid thinking behind the batting, but still there's the chaos. Like, the chaos never went away today. You go all the way through this innings, and it was there, available at any, for many different times. And it's a fascinating day to watch from that point of view. Here's another one. Here's another analysis note. England didn't bowl at the stumps enough. I know this is going to sound weird because they still get a bowl Australia out really cheaply. But if you go back when they were bowling brilliantly, they probably didn't bowl at the stumps enough. They were probably a little bit too wide and a little bit too short. I think it was over the first 60 balls or something. They had like 2 hitting the stumps. One of those was Weatherall dismissal. I actually think they could have caused more problems for Australia if they'd attacked the stumps a little bit more. Now, maybe some of that is tactics, because in Smith's case and in Marnus's case, you just want to bowl outside the off stump and everything else. Oh, take the Starc thing down. I'll bring it up in a minute, actually. But yeah, so you've got that. Then on top of that, they didn't bowl at the stumps as much as you probably should have, especially considering the way that everyone, there was one bowl, 2 LBWs when England were batting, right? Like, the stumps were really in play. I still don't know why, but the stumps were in play. And then the other thing you would say is that Stokes went hunting when he didn't have to go hunting. Jofra and Atkinson were bowling incredibly, and yet Stokes couldn't leave it alone, right? He brings Wood on. So Jofra is in this incredible form, and suddenly Wood's bowling. And then before tea, he made another change and he brought Cast on. And I thought it was like maybe 1 over before tea. But then after tea, Cast is bowling. And you look at what Stokes is doing, and he's chasing wickets like a madman over and over again. Bowlers are like, bowling 2 or 3 really good overs and being yanked out of the attack. No one can score off Atkinson, and suddenly he's gone. Like, all these things are happening. And none of that mattered. That's the thing. I don't know how to give you like incredible analysis on this, because in the end, none of that actually mattered, because it was so chaotic and weird and everything else that you ended up in a situation where you're thinking to yourself, why are the wickets falling? Why can't Australia score? I think I put in the main video as well, like the shot I was thinking about, there was one from ahead. I think it might have been Atkinson or it might have been Cast. I can't remember, but someone gave him a little bit of width outside off stump, and he sort of leaned back and played that big sort of head shot. And if you go back, and maybe I had the sound too low, but usually if head lofts the ball in Australia, the crowd just rises, right? Like, head is that guy. And I don't remember there being a big sound from the crowd. And then also, the ball just got stuck and just didn't go to the boundary. Like, I think they ran a 3 on that one. And it was like the crowd were already so put off by what the hell was going on in this game. The outfield was playing against them. They couldn't run between wickets. England weren't giving them a lot of opportunities. You have to say that. I thought, outside of Starc, I thought England bowled absolutely incredibly. Outside of Starc, I thought England completely outbowled every other Australian bowler by a considerable distance. I don't think Doggett was bad. And I thought Green did okay as well. Boland, I don't know what he was doing, but everyone else I thought bowled pretty well. But they, the other England bowlers just absolutely bowled brilliantly. Even if they didn't bowl at the stumps, even if Stokes didn't allow them to keep their rhythm for more than 3 overs at a time, I thought they were magnificent. But yeah, it was just, the whole thing was weird. I'm sorry if this is more rambly than a normal third innings, and usually I would, be a little bit more in control. But why should I be on control? At lunch, you were thinking to yourself, England's got themselves in a bit of a trouble here, and they might have coughed up a chance to actually get ahead of Australia and put themselves in a really good position in this game. And there were, 15 wickets that fell after lunch? How do you process that? Coming off the jet lag of having flown, in late last night, there were some times where I was like, I couldn't tell if I was watching replays like the entire day. It was that kind of day where you're just like, am I watching a previous game, or are these wickets from before? They just seem to happen so regularly and so naturally that you're like, what's going on? What am I watching? All right, well, we'll take a quick break and I'll get to some of your questions from the room, because I've already seen there's some really good ones in here. So this is the third innings. We'll be trying to do this as much as possible. We may not be able to do it tomorrow because of the Literature Festival, the Camera Literature Festival, but we'll certainly try and do as many of these as possible. But we'll be back soon. We'll be back like in a moment. We'll be back. Is that what I mean?
Cricket boards actually make watching their games almost impossible. I spend almost as much time trying to find where I can view it as I do actually following the action. That is why I use NordVPN. They let me find all the cricket I want to watch while protecting me from the nasty side of the internet. Nord will free your cricket matches. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/good areas to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan, plus 4 additional months on top. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Watch every match with NordVPN.
All right, we've got a couple of super chats. If you line some more up, I'll be able to get some. I might have time to take some normal chats as well. We'll see how we go. I just want to bring this up. This is Crick AI, which is this. It's now Rushline, actually, AI. They're changing their name to, so you can find the app in the App Store. And it's a AI-driven thing looking at cricket. And what was really fascinating is, obviously, we know that Test cricket is really hard from a data perspective and everything else. But the one thing that Rushline or Crick said today, of course, was that Starc's pace would dominate in Perth. And they said he would get 3 to 4 wickets in the day. You can see here. And, of course, he gets 3 to 4 wickets in the first session. Just showed you what a chaotic day it is, because I think even if you had said he would take a 7-wicket haul, there's no way you would have structured it the way that it ended up being today. Like, it's so weird. So anyway, I'm going to be looking at the Rushline app and the Crick app quite a bit now, just to see where they go. So you'll see a few stats and everything from them coming up at times, so you can go find them. But we've also got a bunch of super chats and everything. Vibhor says, this is an exact replica of India-Australia last year at Perth. So you think Zach and Pope can do what Jaiswal and Rahul did, bat potentially an entire day? Can Bazball bat like India in that third inning? Okay, I know why you think it's a replica, and I've mentioned it in the narrative video, and I might have mentioned it earlier. It wasn't really a replica, though, was it? Because that was a pitch where there was noticeable sideways movement all day and drastic sideways movement. You'd have to say we didn't see that today. Now, with the amount of wickets, we have to say that the pitch has played a part. It can't all be weird batting and panicking and everything else. Although there did seem to be a lot of weird batting and panicking out. But yeah, I don't know if it's completely. I understand why you're making this, because I've made the same one. But I don't know if it is exactly that kind of a situation. It feels a lot more batter driven, I think, than yesterday. But let's go back to your actual point, which I think is really interesting. I think if I'm England now, they're probably thinking to themselves that they can just bat however they want to bat in the next innings. And you're maybe right, Bibble, because if you think about it, they have a chance of essentially batting Australia out of this test match completely tomorrow. We don't know if the grass will stick around a little bit longer. We'll have to have a look at that. We're not expecting Australia to get that close to the England total, but they might add a couple more. There's a few different things that we'll be able to tell quite early on in the day. Just simple things as well of, the pitch might be different, right? It might continue to move, all these sorts of things. But yeah, if let's say it does follow the India. Oh, Bayram's here with me. Hey, baby.
Hey, honey. I saw you were live. I was like, might as well jump on.
Oh, we just need to check the sound, because I don't have my headphones on, because I wasn't sure.
Oh.
Anyway, no. So Rushit will just have to tell us if it's working.
Okay.
But what I was just talking about is, like, we don't know if it's going to play out tomorrow in the same way. But I don't think England's going to try and do what Rahul and Jaiswal did. Do you?
Dude, I mean, I've seen a lot of people who are complaining over here that, it's another one of those shit pitches, this, that, the other, 19 wickets fell. People forget that this could ease out for batting. We saw this in the test match versus India at Perth. And again, Nathan Lyon also said the same thing, that he thinks that the surface is a bit more dry beneath. And while there was a lot of pace and bounce over here, maybe the surface eases out for batting. So I feel like this test match might have a lot of different flavors. Maybe it's a bit too soon to say that. But what a day. I mean, I take my money. I'll pay for those 19 wickets, right?
Well, just on people complaining about the pitch, you can't look at that and say that the pitch was that bad.
No,
right?
19 wickets is a stretch.
Like, if you compare that to the India wicket last year, that looked like a much tougher pitch to bat on than this. Like, and you look at some of the wickets, I was talking about them before you came on in the intro and everything, you've got about 3 blokes who just missed really, really full ones from England. You had England trying to beat the deep fielders out out there. You then had Marnus Labuschagne accidentally, ram the ball back onto his stumps, and then you had a bunch of Australian batters like trying to force against Ben Stokes, who wasn't particularly bowling. He wasn't bowling like India versus India. Ben Stokes, was he? Like, it's when you look at that, it's not like you're looking at a lot of guys who are nicking off into the slip score. Like, you've got Root, who was the first one that went out? Crawley, Smith, Atkinson. I'm trying to think there was another one as well. There weren't that many sort of traditional Western Australian wickets. Most of the wickets were like weird and chaos.
The weirdest one for me was Travis Head. I mean, he just basically gifts his wicket to short mid-wicket, right? But I agree. yes, there was pace and bounce, but it's not like 19 wickets fell because of that. 19 wickets was definitely more than that should have fallen. I think 14 wickets at best, right? Or at most. So I feel like application was an issue, but that's modern day test cricket for you. We don't see batters who are trying to go for grit and grind. They want to exert pressure onto the opposition team, right? And that's how cricket functions now. I'm, again, not complaining. I like this.
It's interesting though, because Australia did try grit and grind, didn't they? Like they actually did try it, and then they abandoned it. And it didn't work, to be fair, as well. Like it didn't work because Smith and Marnus didn't stick around, and neither did. I mean, Khawaja wasn't there long enough, but that he was going to do the same thing. And then they actually got back into the game by putting a little bit of pressure back on. You know, Green played that incredible drive. I think it was off Atkinson or Cass, where he smashed it down the ground and head hit a couple of fours and tried to launch the ball over the top and everything. And so they did actually try to put some pressure back on. And then that pressure that they were trying to put back on at the end just completely, and this happened for both sides, right? They just completely forfeited the end of their innings.
It is really, really fascinating because look, yes, Australia was struggling big time when they started their innings, and Jofra and Cass both bowled splendidly well to fetch out those 4 wickets, 2 wickets each. But then you see a partnership between Head and Green. I feel like that moment where Gus Atkinson drops Green off his own bowling, I was like, we're going to be talking about this drop, aren't we? Because now there's going to be a partnership and England are going to, fall apart. And they don't. Stokes comes and bowls 6 overs, picks up 5 wickets. And like you said, it's nothing like, it wasn't spectacular in a bowling way. It's just, I don't know, he's an aura farmer at this point. He comes on and people freak out. I don't know what's up with the guy because he does attract drama and he seizes these moments and he's stolen Starc's thunder. On a day where we should have been talking only about Mitch Starc, we have ended up talking about Ben Stokes.
Yeah, and so Bumrah does that to Starks in the last test, doesn't he? In the in the India test a year ago. But the difference is that like Bumrah bowled incredibly. Like Stokes, I'm the guy who said Stokes was the best bowler last year for England in that or this year in the series against India. This just wasn't that. It was random, as you said. Like Head. Stark's wicket himself, like there was just Carey's wicket. It was really, really insane the way that it all happened. This is one of the stupidest days of Test cricket we'll ever watch. I mean, also, stupid fun, but stupid.
Yeah, very stupid, lots of fun. But hear me out. Don't you think England have the 49-run advantage because of Bazball ultimately? Because they do take the bowlers on. They score 172 in 32.5 overs. Australia have already played like 6 overs more than them, and they are 49 runs behind. On a day where there are no batting scores, Harry Brooks 52, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but Ollie Pope's 46 stands out.
Honestly, I think they should have made a lot more. So I don't know if I can credit Bazball because, maybe the Pope and Brook partnership ends up being huge, right? It could be the defining partnership of this game, depending on what happens with the pitch tomorrow. But even so, it could be one of the more defining moments of the game. But they still both gave it away when they were in, right? Like, so I don't know. I just think that. I think England made a lot of mistakes, but England bowled like twice as good as Australia, right? Starc bowled incredibly, but no one else bowled anywhere near. Whereas, let's say Atkinson was like the 5th best bowler for England today. He's probably Australia's 2nd best bowler. Like I thought Atkinson bowled really, really well. The drop catch was a bit unfortunate, but I thought he bowled really, really well, and yet he just didn't get the wickets for it. Whereas you look at the Australians and you're like, outside of Starc, Doggett bowled okay, Green bowled like one good spell, and Boland was struggling. So I don't know if this is a day where I'm like Bazball won. I'm more like this is a day where Bazball probably gave Australia a second chance and the bowlers overcame it just by being immense.
Fair enough. I mean, Scotty Boland was out of rhythm. And I think your point is valid in the sense that for Australia, Mitch Starc is a one-man show. He takes 7 for 58, which, by the way, are career best figures for him. And I looked at his breakdown on Cricinfo because I was just enamored by the fact that there was no Cummins, no Hazlewood. Here I was saying on multiple shows that Starc out of the 3 is the worst red ball bowler. And he comes and takes 7 for 58, career best figures. Jarrod, in 2025, he's averaging 15.5 with the ball. This is his best year ever in Test cricket.
Yeah,
and I know the West Indies series is a part of this, obviously, right? But still, it's incredible.
I think over the last year and a half to 2 years. He had that issue where he tried to bowl the wobble ball and he stopped swinging it, right? And that caused him massive issues because he was a swing bowler and he wasn't good enough with the wobble ball. He just couldn't consistently use it. And I think eventually, he actually went back to swing bowling a little bit, got himself back in a rhythm, tried the wobble ball again, and now it's working for him. And he should be incredible with the wobble ball, right? Because of the height and the bounce and everything else. Like, he has so many natural advantages with that delivery. So I think over the last 18 months, he's been really, really good. I wouldn't say he's been better than Cummins, but obviously Hazlewood's been their star bowler.
Yeah.
But I think he's really come back in quite a lot over that time, and it's been pretty good for a long period of time. He also, I think this is just a wicket that should suit him, right? Like the extra pace and bounce and everything else. You know, you can swing the ball a little bit in Perth.
4 out of his 7 wickets are off shorter length deliveries, right? So, I mean, the conditions definitely suited him. But look, I'd still like to give him a lot of credit over here because he did have to step up, and he stepped up quite, insanely. And the last time he averaged less than 28 in a single calendar year was 2020, I believe. So it's been a while. And I mean, he's seeing this late career resurgence, and he just doesn't quit, right? This is a guy who's in his mid-30s now, and he's still delivering rockets. It was a fast and fiery spell also.
My God, there was some fast bowling today, though, wasn't there? Like, it. I know Bryden Castle's bowling within himself a little bit because we've seen him quicker. But like Bryden Castle's like maybe the slowest bowler from England, and then obviously I don't know if Bowl or Doggett. I can't remember Doggett's speeds, but like it was ridiculous how much pace there was on offer on that surface, and you have to. We can have a go at the batters for some of the weird decisions they made, but there was a lot of balls flying around them. Like the Usman Khawaja ball from Bryden Cast when he bowls cross seam, that just spits. Like that spits in a way that even in Western Australia, I don't think you expect that delivery on day one.
That's true. Also, it was so weird how Australia don't go for the Webster option. They play Weatherall as opener and Marnus at 3, and then they can't do that because Khwaja's off the field. So now Weatherall is opening with Marnus, Smith is coming in at 3, and Khwaja's coming in at 4. So that was probably the joke of the day, right?
Well, that and Weatherall, the fact that he's literally in midair floating, I think I called it on the main video, like it was a glitch for a moment, Yeah, no, it was remarkable. We got some super chats, man, as well.
All right.
Andy says, who is the bigger upside between Jaiswal and Brook? They're the two best batting talents in cricket. I think Jaiswal's got the biggest upside of anyone. I think Brook can be a fantastic player, and he might even be I think he can be an England great, obviously, but he could even be an all-time great. I think Jaiswal has the potential of being a top 10 or 15 best batter of all time. He may not get there, of course, but if you're asking me purely on the skills that he has.
I would like to do a tally of the amount of super chats we've got just on this question. We've probably made a lot of money on it over the course of however many years. But yes, Brook, until he solves his issues versus spin bowling, I wouldn't kind of put him or place him in that category. For me, Jaiswal is in a Fab 1 for this next generation because people always talk about Fab 4, but Jaiswal is a tier above all these next generation of upcoming batters, even ahead of Gill for me.
Yeah, I think, Ooh, that's interesting. I think I still have him clearly a bit ahead of Gill. I just think there's still questions with Brook. I mean, we saw again today, he went out to the short ball. We knew Australia was going to try the short ball quite a bit with him. We've seen him struggle against really good spin. And also, he's getting away with things at the moment that, Johnny Bairstow got away with a lot of things early on in his career, right? Adam Gilchrist averages high 50s at the first half of his career and whatever it was, 30 odd for the second half. Eventually teams work out where to put the fielders, right?
Yeah.
And how to get to you.
All right.
Most of 19 sorry, you can read these out. I can barely see on this screen.
Yeah. Sandeep Anand asks, most of the 19 wickets today were thrown away while some were good wicket-taking balls. Don't think the pitch is as bad as scorecard looks. We've already talked about that it's a tough pitch. There's a lot of pace and bounce, but it's not a 19 wickets fall in a single day pitch. Like I said, 13 to 14 wickets at most. So yeah, I think you're right over there, Sandeep.
I think this is challenging, especially because you have so many bowlers who have pace or bounce in this game, right? Even someone like Doggett who had, or actually maybe Cameron Green's a better one of you're not even expecting him to be a major force in this game, but because of his bounce, he's still an issue. Yeah. But I think if you were going to give me this pitch or the one that India, South Africa just played on, I'm taking the India, South Africa pitch. Sorry, I'm taking this pitch to bat on 100 times out of 100 over that one, right? Like that was really tough. That tested every single part of your skill. This didn't seem to do that much. I mean, Australia used Lion before lunch. Like it can't be that. It can't be that full on a wicket if you're using Lion. Like, I mean, maybe I'm making too much out of that, but I was like, I don't know. I think we're being very friendly.
Imagine Marco Janssen on this pitch where he'd still be tough because he has pace and bounce as well, being a tall bloke, but you'd know that the bounce would be consistent. Now throw Kolkata into the mix where you don't know what Marco Janssen is going to do.
To be fair, Usman Khawaja is coming into the chat to be like, do we know it's consistent? Because I'm pretty sure I got one that fed up at me. But no, you're right. True. It was very different. You know, very different kinds of challenges. But yeah, I would have thought that was a much tougher wicket than what we saw here. I'm happy to be proven wrong, as I said, with Orkoi data or anything. But based on what I saw, we shouldn't have seen that many wickets.
All right, we've got Kiwi Nick, who asks, felt like the pitch isn't as bad as it comes across. Fair to say some of the players' shot selection was very poor. Case in point, Jamie Smith. I mean, this is repetition at this point, but yeah. Yeah,
no, and they're all right. I was about to bring them all up because I'd already got to this point when you came in. So the chats are perfectly timed. It's just that we are not perfectly timed today. Yeah. The Jamie Smith one's really interesting. I think I might have mentioned it on the main video as well. Of like when it came up and it says it's 83-meter boundary, I was like, I wonder how many England players will just get caught on the square boundary because Australia's just going to play on that, right? And like Smith is a perfect, you know, I talked about this at Edgbaston when he did that thing when they were batting for the draw and he just kept trying to hit sixes. I'm like, you're an incredible hit striker of the ball, dude. Ground, eventually you miss time one. I'm not even sure at Perth you have to mistime it. The ground is so big that you can probably get almost full connection on the ball and you're still going to be caught out in the boundary. And so Brook went out to the short one. He went out to the short one. Cass went out, caught on the boundary as well. Again, like, you know, a similar kind of thing. And then you had all the Australians caught up in the ring, again, trying to hit the ball over. Like there was a lot of wickets, especially late in innings, just absolutely donated to the bowling attack. Now, if you want to make the claim that some of that is because of the pace and bounce of the bowling, I think that's fair. Like I think you can give some of that. But as Bayram keeps saying, you can't give 19 wickets to that.
Yeah. Also, I mean, look, batters just like to play their shots these days and they want to be exerting pressure. And it's weird that Australia do change their strategy midway. Anyway, have we taken this one by AMJ91288? Is Ben Stokes the best old ball seconds change fast bowler now post Wagner? Also, when will you arrive at Ikamra Festival tomorrow? I'm going to do a live show, I think, from here at lunchtime. So I'll probably be there. I haven't been to the festival site yet, so I'm not sure how far away it is, but probably from midday-ish. My speech is at 4:30, that I can tell you. So I'll definitely be there at 4:30. But there's a bunch of other people that I'd really like to hear them speak as well. So I'll try and get there as early as possible. But obviously there's a bit of work to do in the morning. So Ben Stokes, if you go back, I remember when I first started doing all my work on Neil Wagner, and I'm pretty sure this came up in Sid Monger's work on Neil Wagner as well, is that we both basically came to a point where we thought that Ben Stokes was the second best old ball bowler then. His ability, I think I'm right. I think I can't remember if this was me or Monger, but his ability to break set partnerships is on a level that you don't normally see. And, you know, this is only things that we can really get in the last 20 or so years. So we don't know if this was, you know, this is what we heard about with people like Botham, right? And certain other bowlers. But that's what I think Stokes is at his absolute best at, is I think he takes in the information watching the batters and then it's like, wow, the things we haven't tried yet are this, 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 and this. And sometimes you'll see even within 1 or 2 overs, he'll circle through, like, because we know how quickly his brain moves. He'll circle through like 3 plans. And sometimes I think to myself, just keep bowling that ball you're bowling a minute ago. You don't need to change your plan. But he's like, no, I've got to find the exact right thing. And then he does it. And I think that's actually a big challenge for a batter, because look at Scott Boland. He's a fantastic bowler. Most of the time, if you're facing Scott Boland or Vernon Philander, there's one plan and they're just going to keep doing it, right? Yeah.
And yet with Stokes, he's like, there is no rhythm that you can get in. So I think he's a fantastic old ball bowler on flat pitches. Obviously, the best actual old ball bowler is Bumrah, right? But if you're looking specifically at someone who can throw the ball to get a breakthrough when nothing much is happening, Stokes is so high up in that.
True. Plus, look, even though we're saying that Head throws away his wicket, he kind of manufactures it with that weird, funky third man field, right? Like, how many people were overlapping each other over there in that region? So now he's kept a short mid wicket that, all right, I want you to pull me and mistime it. And he does that, right?
We talked about this last summer, like when we were commentating, of like, there is a completely different batting tempo batting against Ben Stokes, the bowler, and Ben Stokes, the captain, than almost anyone else, because normal captains don't make 2 or 3 changes in an over. And if you get Steve Smith in full form, I think he could just embarrass Stokes, because Stokes is going to chase the ball and he's going to panic, and Smith's going to be like, oh, you're doing this, I'm going to do this. But when you don't have that and you can't find flow, and the bowlers are bowling good as well, I'm backing you up, you end up in a situation where almost there's a different fielding plan or a different bowling plan so often that you're never in a normal batting rhythm that you would get. So it's a fascinating thing to watch. He was out of that last test at the Oval, and I wanted to count the amount of fielding changes he did in a test match, because I just think it would be off the charts.
Yeah. Also, I mean, he does make some brave calls, right? Wins the toss and bats first, which is very unlike Ben Stokes. Plays in a 4-pronged or 5-pronged pace attack if you count himself. Doesn't care about overrate. These are things which, you clearly can tell that this guy really wants to win the first test, right? And then we'll see how it goes from there. Yeah, they definitely have, but you never know with England, right? Or Australia not going to kind of just give up too easily. Anyway, do we have any more of these super chats?
We got lots, yeah. Have you missed some?
Oh, yeah, I missed this one. Walking Alive asks, England won't repeat this bowling performance too much in the series, but they definitely will repeat their batting. Still 3-1 to Australia. I mean, look, some days their batting will come off and some days it won't. But the days where it comes off and the days where they take wickets as well is when they set themselves up perfectly to win those test matches.
It's also worth saying that, like, this is always going to be the test match that best suited the bowling attack they were bringing, right? Yeah. Like, I did a bunch of TalkSport stuff yesterday, and we just kept bringing up the same thing. Like, if England don't win the first test, when they've literally brought a bowling attack for this pitch, we don't know how the rest of the pitches are going to play. But this is the one wicket we knew was suiting England's attack, right? Yeah. So if they came over and it didn't suit their attack, that was going to be a problem. There should be some regression after this with their bowling, because the other pitches aren't going to cause the same problems to Australia. So there's still a chance that Australia win this series 3-1. But England's only chance of winning the series, for me, was them winning this first test. And at the moment, they're in front in the first test. So they've done everything they need to on one day. I say one day of the Ashes. I was going to say, like, there are 24 more to go. There are clearly not 24 more days to go. Yeah. There are 16 more days to go. I don't know at the moment how many more days there are to go. But you know what I mean? Like, it is still very early on, but they put themselves in such a great position that if they have 1 or 2 decent partnerships tomorrow, it might just be too much for Australia at that point. Like, Australia looks really shook.
I feel like even if the pitch eases out for batting, if England post a target in excess of 300, there's scoreboard pressure as well, right? So it's a big Ashes test. It's a packed house at the Optus, which, by the way, doesn't always favor the home side. They could be shitting their pants that 50 to 60,000 people are coming here to watch us, and we might lose.
Mate, there's a lot of English people over there too, like in Perth in general, not just the tourists, but in Perth. Like, Perth is probably the one where you have the highest percentage of English fans. And you felt that at times today, right? Like, it did feel like there was a lot of English people in there. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of that. The one thing I would say that goes against the way that England play, and I think it might have been one of the early chats or super chats that we had, was that, India grounded out, right? And they batted for so long that eventually what they did is they allowed for the natural variation of Perth as the cracks come in to cause an issue. So even when Australia were batting on a better batting surface, it wasn't as solid. If you look at what is happening now, like, chances are England aren't going to bat long enough to bring the cracks into play, right? So it is again a very, very different situation, and they're obviously a very different team to India, but they have, this is the test that they were set up to play in. So we'll see. We'll see how they go. 3-1 is, I don't know how you make the 3-1 selection today, because Australia did look panicked, right? And it's a long series, and they can find some form. But right at the moment, they're not looking great.
Yeah. The batting is looking very fragile. And also, you have to consider the fact that England are using their fast bowlers in short bursts. So they might be able to preserve them beyond Perth, right? That was our major concern. Will these bowlers last the test of 5 test matches? They still might not, but it's off to a good start.
Well, also, if if some of these test matches are shorter, that actually also will help Australia when their bowlers come back as well, right? Like,
True.
I actually think because they still have Tongue and Potts to come in, I don't think they play Potts now. But if he does come in, they have the ability to be able to do that. Whereas Australia kind of have to get Cummins and Hazlewood back in. It's not that caused the issues today, but I'm just saying in general, they have to get them back in. They're already going to play 1 fewer test, maybe 2 in Cummins's case. And if they're really short tests, I actually think that probably helps Australia. Whereas I think if I'm England, I'm like, I wouldn't mind the test as being a little... Mitchell Starc might have to leave, because if he has to bowl for a day and a half tomorrow, I'm pretty happy with that, I think, if I'm England. That's not the way they will bat, of course. They will bat like their asses are on fire.
Absolutely. All right, we've got another super chat over here by... Who is it? No, we've done this one. Or haven't we? No, we haven't.
No, I haven't done this one.
Asks, yeah, Jarrod, your pick of Starc being the leading wicket taker looks to be a good one. He's probably going to have 20 wickets after the second test. Hey, I picked Stokesy. Okay? So...
It is funny because this was, I don't think I did it on our channel, but I did it on TalkSport with Bumble, and Bumble picked Atkinson. I was like, really? Because I actually find it hard for England to have the leading bowler because they've got like a wider array of kind of frontline bowlers. They're also much more about the rest of rotation and everything else. And I basically picked the one bowler who I thought would most likely play 5 tests. Right? Like, as much as anything, that's where I was really going with this. But yeah, he's... it's a very good start, that one. It's aged quite well. Let's see how we go further on. But after the pink ball test, Stark's already been complaining that it's not in Adelaide anymore. So maybe he won't get the same amount of wickets that he normally gets. But we talked about it before. I think he's just much better now. And that was one of the reasons I picked him. I think if you would go back, Nick, I don't think you'd find many times I've ever picked Starc to be the leading wicket taker in a series. I feel so much more confident with him now. And it was only, a couple of years ago, I was writing him up as, this isn't working. They might have to think about other things. They took, there was, the new ball was taken away from him in white ball cricket. Like, there was a lot going on with him. And he just looks, I think he looks as good now, certainly in Test cricket, as I've ever seen him. Sadly, we won't see much of him in white ball cricket. But it'd be interesting to see in the IPL whether he can regain some of that form as well. Because I really do think he's finally become the fully actualized version of himself that we've never seen before.
I'm just glad that I'm toe-to-toe with you at the end of day one because Stokesy also takes wickets. So if I, by any chance, win this contest, I will be taking...
Oh, did we do it on our channel? We did do it on our channel as well. So I forgot we'd done that. Yeah. You don't deserve to be right with Stokes.
I do get your rationale. It is the safest pick.
The problem with Stokes is if he gets close to being the leading wicket taker, he probably gets injured.
That is true. But he can get injured in the last innings of the 5th test match. I'm fine with that. He doesn't play any other format either, so he can recuperate till the next test series. Anyway, the Dikshita Wee asks, worst batting by mediocre Australia, how to sack Gambhir. First of all, can someone tell me whether India did get the sort of pitch that they wanted? Because now the batting coach has come and said that Gambhir was protecting the curators, and this is not the sort of pitch that they expected, which is just weird. I don't get any of this.
It's a bit, I think the thing with someone like Gambhir is he probably says things before they all get together and kind of talk about it a little bit. So what ends up happening quite often with someone like him, I remember Darren Lehman used to do this as well, of like, they just go off because that's the sort of people they are. And so you end up being so confused at which direction you're going. I want to focus just on this a little bit because I do think this is worth it. Australia looked terrible when they defended today and looked terrible when they attacked.
Yeah.
So when we say worst batting by mediocre Australia, like, I know he's talking about the overall quality of the team and everything else, but when you actually just break down this innings and how bad they were in different ways, it really is a little bit scary if you're an Australian, because you would have thought to yourself, okay, well, England hasn't batted very well. We've got a chance now to, there was the first 5 or 6 overs. I know where they all went, but it was like, how long, I think it might have been one of the commentators said, how long does Australia need to, wear these really good attacks by England? They never really looked like they were going to. And then later on, they gifted a lot of wickets as well. So it's the worst case scenario, really, I think, for Australia with their batting, other than the fact that, Marnus looked, Marnus is back at number 3 and Green is at number 6. Looks like a stronger overall lineup than we saw of recent times. But, they still don't look like making any runs.
They might miss Webster ultimately on this sort of surface, I believe. That could come into play. But also, I felt like they were a bit spooked today, no? When Steve Smith and Marnus come out to bat after tea, I felt like they were actually quite cautious that some of these balls are really going to hurt us. At least that's what, the images suggested.
I didn't think they were worried about being hurt. I thought they couldn't work out how to score. Right. I
Hmm.
really thought that they were in a situation where they're like, we don't know how to score here. We don't know what to do. And, the running between wickets, I don't know if I mentioned it on this video, or if I mentioned it on the other video on the main channel, but when Steve Smith got one on the pads and he just turned it around and just took off and he'd hit it straight to Pope. Like, they weren't in control of what they were doing. There was another one too when I think Atkinson had an LBW shout against Smith, and Smith was so busy talking about how he wasn't out that he didn't realize there was a run on offer and almost ran himself out. Like, just really simple things that you wouldn't expect those players of their quality to do. Like, Marnus should have just said no to Smith on that other one. In fact, Marnus probably should have said no to both, because he's not that it was Smith's fault the second time. It was Smith's fault probably both times, but Marnus should have noticed that there were things going on. But they just weren't in sync, right? Nothing was matching up. And, all the way through, even Head, I felt like it ended up being quite a good innings. But even at times with Head, I was just like, he's just not, it feels like he's not seeing the ball the way that he normally sees it.
Yeah. Okay, how does Gambhir? We can't tell you. Maybe making a phone call or something to an important or powerful friend of yours. Conrad McBad asks, how much are Australia missing Cummins batting, lacking the gritty number 8 looked like it affected Carey's approach to batting with the tail? Interesting question.
Yeah, I think you could probably say that. I feel that Australia thought that they actually needed to get their runs quickly. And I wonder if Cummins had come in, and we've seen him against pace bowling sometimes go on the attack, that maybe Conrad, we might not have even got that. We might have actually got the other Cummins, the Kolkata 50 off 12 balls or whatever it was. The Pat Cummins, right?
The IPL Cummins.
Yeah, only because, just watching them, I felt like they had made a decision that they needed to bat that way. So I know what you're saying, and it's possible. But the way that I read it was actually different, which is they just went, we have to get as many runs as quickly as we can. We need to put pressure back on England. So maybe Cummins comes in and defends, but maybe he doesn't. But yeah, it weakens the batting order, right? They've essentially got 2 number 10s and a number 11 at 9, 10, 11. Lyon and Boland are not bad number 10s, but they're not fantastic number 10s either, are they? Right? So it is a bit of an issue. Although, to be fair, England's tail is much better, and they didn't do much.
True. Now we've got Oe Naswer. Sounded like, or looked like Panesar to me, and he's been in the news. But yeah, he asks, who do you think is a better batter, Zach Crawley or Jofra Archer? I think this is a lottery wicket similar to Eden. Hope match concludes before end of day 2. I don't think it's a lottery wicket, but I love the first part of your question. I know Varun is chuckling somewhere at the gym.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a lottery wicket at all. I mean, the scoreboard suggests it's a lottery wicket, but having watched it and going I spent all day watching the cricket live and going back and watching the wickets to make sure what I'd seen is what I'd seen. As I said, there's a couple of guys who just missed really full balls, just sort of played around them in very weird ways. You can't blame the pitch for what Stokes, Duckett, or Pope's wicket off the top of my head. I'm trying to think. There's another one as well. Even Weatherall's is a little bit of new ball bowling, but it's not. You can't blame the wicket. It had nothing to do with those, right? There was a lot of wickets today that had nothing to do with the pitch. The Crawley, we saw today that that was just a ball that even Crawley can't drive, right? And I wonder sometimes if there's it's like Crawley's like the consistent Sam Constance in that England's always pumping him up to be like, you can do anything, you can do anything. It's like, well, he can't, right? He can't drive a ball of that length at Perth, right? And also the ball was nipping around. That was just an easy ball to just let go through and then attack the next over when something comes up. And Boland was giving plenty of balls to attack. He wouldn't have known that at the time, of course, but he would have smashed Boland in the net because Boland kept over pitching. I just think that, and this is Bazball with brains. There was some brains today. Like, I think winning the toss and batting was a perfect example of that. I thought that was the right decision, and I didn't expect them to make it. But there's a couple of times where you're still like, oh, we're still gonna do this, are we? We're just gonna do the silly thing because we're awesome. And it's like, I don't know. I thought they were on this pitch with Hazlewood not playing. They were slight favourites for this game. Played like favourites. You don't need to up the volatility when you're favourites. You need to up the volatility when the game is in question, you're not sure what's about to happen, or when you're behind.
All right, we've got one more super chat, but I think it's just money, and Andy didn't really ask a question over here. So, Andy, if you'd like to ask a question, now is the time. We'll probably have to wrap up soon.
Let me just see if Andy put in anything.
I think this is a different Andy, but he asks,
There are Andy
fan. Yeah, this Andy asks, as a Pakistan fan, does Behram breathe easier with Gambhir as coach than Dravid? I'm a cricket correspondent at this point, dude. I don't think I breathe easier when Gambhir makes certain tactical decisions in Test cricket. That's what really bothers me. The all-rounders galore and left-hand, right-hand obsession. But I don't care who the coach of India is or how much they win or lose, dude. I mean, you guys keep confusing this stuff with, other fans.
So I remember Muku, who was in charge of the whole Good Areas YouTube channels. I remember when he first started, and he would send me messages going, oh, look what's happening with India and whatever. And I went, it's quite interesting. I said, within a year, you won't care or notice what's happening with India. And he was like, no, I'm patriotic Indian. Of course, I'll always care. And within a year, he's cheering the articles. He's cheering the takes. He's cheering whichever video is working well, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to understand, as professionals, it really changes quite dramatically. And it's kind of, I don't know how Behram feels about this, and he hasn't been at it long, but for me, it's kind of the quiet moment after the work is done sometimes, where you sit back and you're like, oh, my team has won. And you actually enjoy it in a completely different way. There's a fan element to it, but there's also there's almost like, job done. Oh, and my team's done their job, right, at the same time. And I've talked about this before, 13, 14 Ashes, when, there was so much work. I think it was when we started polite inquiries. It was just chaos, and we were doing all these different things, right? And then Australia win at Perth. And I had nothing to do for half an hour. I think I was waiting for George, and I'd written my piece or whatever that may be. And I just went out on the grass, and I just sat down and watched Australia enjoy winning the Ashes. And I was like, I hadn't even factored that this might happen, right? And so you get a very different kind of, it just changes your brain chemistry once you work in the sport, for good and bad, right? There are things you can see, but also, I think me and Behram haven't lost our fan passion. It's just our fan passion is now used in a different way. And you see this right across the board. Sometimes I really respect the really partisan old journalists, because I was like, fair play, you've been in this for 30 years and you still really care that your team wins. I don't know if, I'd be in that. I know I'm not, but I'm not wired that way to begin with. But, I was the guy who in the 2003 World Cup had an Australian flag on my back. You can briefly see me as Vrinder Sehwag hits Brad Hogg for a 6 in the highlights packages. I'm clearly not that person anymore, right? And a lot of that is working in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, when I started off with my own YouTube channel, I think Pakistan lost a test match to the West Indies at Sabina Park, and I was devastated. And that day after I did my own show, I was like, okay, you know what? This is not feasible. You can't be feeling this way if you want to work in this industry, especially if your team is Pakistan, who are going to routinely shit the bed, right? Yeah. So that's even a worse sort of ploy. But I do think that, maybe Good Areas has a role to play over here, where I start looking at the macro narratives and individual personal stories, and it's all about, the weird, quirky stuff that we find. And like Andy, you're asking, no, when they play Pakistan, I don't think Pakistan is a team equipped to beat India on the regular anyway. So whoever is coaching India doesn't matter, right?
It could be coached by Krusty the Clown, Andy. Ain't gonna
exactly. It won't matter. But interestingly enough, to say that I am not happy when Pakistan win at cricket is also wrong. I do feel a bit happy, but that is an afterthought, as Jarrod said.
That's what I mean. It comes later. Because your first thought is, how do I cover this? What am I doing now?
Exactly.
It's all these random things, and so you don't do it. I just want to answer this question from Steve. There's one or two more super chats before we finish as well. He said, who gave whether or not out a polling decision? So one of the things that umpires do is they're essentially looking for a bunch of like tells, right? To do with where the ball has gone, where the batter ends up and everything else. When a batter falls over, a lot of the things that umpires do completely falls apart. Like, and it's something that you see quite a lot. You see teams in T20 games review things when a batter has fallen over and it's missing leg stump by like half a meter, right? It's very hard to tell where Weatherald is at this point and whether the ball was pitched on leg stump or outside leg stump because he's in midair. So you can't use his feet, and also the umpire is still not going to be able to see the stumps. So that's why that was given not out. I originally, when I first saw it, thought, well, that looks close. And I thought, it's probably more likely to be outside leg stump as well. So I might have given it, but felt a little bit awkward about it. And the umpire went the other way. I had absolutely no issues with that one. And I think we've got one last one before we head.
I wouldn't have raised my finger either, by the way, when I saw it with the naked eye. I was like, oh, why are they reviewing this? So anyway, Vibhor Seth asks, has the volatility gone up due to lack of patience? It's just a change in mindset for me, you know? I feel like just players are more attuned to playing their shots now, whereas back in the day, they would leave more. It probably just comes down to that.
I think me and Varun have covered this before. When the pace-playing pandemic started and the wobble balls being bowled by everyone, teams went really defensive, right? You could see the run rate drop. They did not make any runs. Right? It had no correlation with them making more runs. And so teams then went, okay, well, let's try the opposite. And obviously you had Rishabh Pant and Travis Head, but you also have Bazball on the back of that, right? And you do actually have people having a lot of success playing attacking cricket suddenly out of nowhere. There is also a limit to it. And I think that losing 19 wickets on this pitch is probably showing that there is a limit to it. And you know, the best way... Varun just said that the 2021 had the lowest strike rate since 2002. So they did try it. But when it comes down to it, there's probably a middle ground. And I don't think the players have also found the middle ground of like, how do you take... This is what I was talking about with England a little bit, which is when you're in front, you don't need to take the same kind of risks, right? And I think at times teams are still taking risks all the way through. So I can almost, even though I think Australia's batting was worse, a lot worse, there's actually some sense in what Australia did in that they worked themselves into a situation where they weren't going anywhere. And then they tried to put some pressure back onto England and it fell apart. Whereas England's innings makes a lot less sense, even if they batted better than Australia. And, you know, that's modern batting for you. It's, you know, teams will pitch positions where they will take big risks.
Plus, we were all entertained, weren't we? So why are we complaining? That's how I look at it. It was a great day. Anyway, I think we're not done with Super Chats. We've got another one by Abhilash S, who says, Jarrod should get better internet with Super Chat.
I'm not at home, mate. I'm in a hotel in India. I did call them and say, are you sure you don't have better Wi-Fi than this? And they said, no, it's very good. I went, I don't think it is, but okay.
Anyway, I think that's done as far as, you know, Super Chats are concerned. So looking forward to tomorrow. Best of luck, Jarrod, with your talk. And yeah, I suppose we'll see everyone soon enough. We'll be doing third innings fairly frequently as well. And then you'll get your test match reviews as well. We'll do some lunch shows as well. So, Bayram, if you're around, you can always pop onto one of those. We usually just get people to ask questions on those, and we do it there. But yeah, tomorrow we'll probably do a lunchtime show, and I'm not sure what else. But if you are in Delhi and you want to come to the Camera Sports Literature Festival, you will see me. Yeah, go buy your tickets, watch Jarrod speak in front of you in the flesh, and we'll see you soon enough. That's all for today. Just a quick reminder, you can go to goodareas.co and bookmark that webpage. That can prove to be your one-stop shop for all the fun work that we do as part of our team, whether it be written content, videos, or podcasts. And all of our shows and podcasts on the Good Areas Network are powered by our supporters on Patreon. You can become one of them by going to Patreon/Good Areas Podcast. Then you can enjoy ad-free content. You can probably buy us better internet. And you can, just give us podcast recommendations as well. So anyway, take care. Have a good one. Enjoy the Ashes and goodbye.
Ross Taylor couldn't see at night or when the clouds were in. Eventually, he had to see an eye specialist who would fix his eyesight. In the 2 years before the change, he still averaged more than 50 in international cricket. The top level of batting talent can basically see in the dark. That is who we are talking about in our new book, The Art of Batting. Head over and order your copy today. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. If you want to be part of the community that makes content like this, head over now.